I may have discovered why there's a differential in the price for Old Lion's gin online, as opposed to showing online on the catalogues, it is, to what they charge here. The girl at the bottle shop told me that it's a $2 surcharge for cartage all the way from Melbourne, where the warehouse is. But I have never ever seen that before here. I've been here for 4 years, and I bought a few different types of grog, and I've never seen a differentiation between the price of an item in the bottle shop and advertised online. And groceries and everything else seems to be exactly the same price wherever you go, although they do say to put the postcode in to check a particular grocery catalogue. So maybe there is some truth to it, but it's not right across the board. Most items are exactly the same price as you'll see online. I've never noticed a difference before, so this is a first. So I don't think it's that happens that often. Not saying she's telling me a porky, but it does seem a bit strange that they differentiate just between certain items. And I don't know why gin in particular would be given a surcharge as opposed to wines and beer and what have you, because I've never seen any difference in price for those. But you know, I pay less for my Guinness here because I get a discount, mind you, but the Guinness here is cheaper than in Melbourne for me. It's probably cheaper for everybody actually. $10 for a pint is probably definitely down the lower end to what you'll pay in Melbourne for equivalent pint of Guinness. So as I say, it's a strange one, but you know, as I say, it may be the case, but it's not across the board. So the cost of living here isn't inflated much at all with food and alcohol. And you know, Murphy's, they sell the Windsor for 33 here. I can't imagine they'd be getting it much lower anywhere. It's about the lowest price you'll pay for gin anywhere, I would think. Not a big deal. $2, not a huge difference. It's less than 10% increase. And still pretty good value. It was an okay drop, but yeah, I've had a fair bit of gin. I might give it a break for a while and just go for something different. That's why it's nice to have a cab sab for a change. I may have a different opinion tomorrow after drinking that cab sab. I don't know if I'll go through the whole bottle. The idea is to probably go through 2/3. Seems to be my tolerance if I go more than that. But I didn't have much to drink at all last night. I only had the end of what was left of the gin bottle, which would have been maybe probably only a tenth of the volume left, so it wasn't much. So yeah, the old liver should be alright for a bit more grog tonight, one would hope. Nice afternoon, you know, it's bathed in sunshine. Yeah, I'm going to have to go for a walk tomorrow as well, so see what happens. Yeah, had total frustration with the ATO again today. Got through, I did get through without having to wait too long. That was fine, but you know, it's like when you get onto someone you just think may not be 100% clued up on what's going on. She did confuse me, this girl that answered this morning, about whether I could deduct the cost of purchasing shares as well as the cost of selling them, and it should be a business cost and you're able to do it, and you can, but she was sort of made me think that you couldn't claim them as a deduction, which is total BS, because I always have been. It's a business expense. She said I have to be a trader or something to do it, but I think she was actually talking about claiming it as a normal deduction in the deduction part of the tax return. So I got totally confused. She went away and got a clarification of it, but then she sort of contradicted herself by saying I can claim it in the schedule as an expense. You know, what's the difference? Call it a deduction, call it an expense, same thing. So anyway, she claims that I've just got to basically change the figures in the schedule, and hopefully then the figures in the on the main page will change, and I'll be able to finally complete the damn return. but I don't have a great deal of confidence, and I didn't even bother trying after I spoke to her on the phone. I might have a go at it when I get home now. I don't know. I've got to do more recalculations, doing exactly what I was told not to do, which is you're supposed to put the gross amount of what you earn on the sale of your shares, and the same with the purchase of the shares. But who knows? My confidence in them is not exactly high right now, to be quite frank. I don't know if she really knew what she was talking about, so we will see. Had the same feeling when you got someone who's taking blood, and you just know that they're not really experienced at it. What's most annoying is when they start making excuses for their lack of skill. That really annoys me. It's bad enough they don't know what they're doing, but they have to really start using other excuses. I've had that a few times actually, and it's really poor. They just don't have the experience which you do need. Because the last person I went to said she had a look at my the veins in my arm, said no problem, had absolute confidence she'd have no hassles, and boom, straight away, hardly any pain. Really good job. It's all to do with practice. It's a very pleasant day today. It's 12:30 on a Tuesday, and yeah, very nice day. Probably low 20s, just a slight breeze. For some reason they don't have footpaths on this side of the road. That's why I'm actually walking over the nature strips. It's either that or walk down the road itself. It's a strange phenomenon here in Queensland. They don't seem to have a high priority on having footpaths. Certainly not on both sides of the road. That's very rare. You get that in Lake Street, but that's a very main road. But in suburbia, no. Well, that's just quite a substantial track here. Good for bikes actually. They could do with a really good bike track going into Cairns Central, because there's a lot of bike riders that come down that road. Well, yeah, mind you, it's getting used. You can see this guy's riding down there. I've seen a few skateboarders down here, and it's a great path to walk along too, so it's good. Yeah, it's not a bad part of the world to live around here. It's pretty quiet for somewhere so close to the city. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with my choice. The crash can be a pain occasionally, but it's not like it's constant. There's actually a public holiday on Friday. That's good news for me, because it means the kids won't be there. They don't open the creche on public holidays, so I'll be getting a long weekend that way too, which is good. So yeah, it's quite attractive, the streetscape here. Yeah, totally given up on trying to do my own tax return. It's very frustrating, yet I'd like to be able to do it myself, and it's just some technical glitch. The only thing I can really do, I guess, is send a note to my local MP, which is the Warren Ench, who's sort of the greenie liberal. I can send a message to them. I don't know if I'll get anything from it, but I just want to make my displeasure known that I should be able to fill out a fairly simple taxation return without having to go to a tax agent. And I think it's going to cost me around $70 if they just charge me for a simple tax return. And it's a bit confusing there too with this company that I've used, eTax. They've got another way you pay. You pay out of the actual refund you get, and then it's only about $30. So obviously I'd pick that as an option, but I wonder if it isn't an additional $30 on top of the simple thing, because I can't imagine they would help you do a tax return for that much. But if I do most of it myself, maybe it is, because I mean, they're really not having to lift a finger. I'm going to put all the data in. I looked at it and it seemed pretty simple. It seemed like something I could easily handle, so I'll have a go at it today. I just want to get this thing finished. I mean, yeah, I wouldn't mind. I'd rather have a few $1,000 back in refunds and having it just sitting in Canberra. So fingers crossed we can get this organised. Yeah. Anyways, like I say, a very nice day. Good day for a walk. Yeah, I also watched another episode of Naked and Afraid in Africa, and another member of another one of the participants in the 40-day struggle to survive pulled out on about day 21, and he was a real pain in the arse. I mentioned him before. His name is Seth, and he's the sort of guy. He was driving his teammate. There's two of them. Suzanne, absolutely crazy because he used to always go to a hide that he'd made so he could hunt all day. But what he actually ended up doing was sleeping there. But he expected her to do all the housework back in camp. So he really didn't put in at all. And he's the sort of guy who blames everybody else for his own misfortunes. So he's just a very toxic personality who has rubbed people up the wrong way over a number of different series. So he's got form. So I might check it out online. I always like to see people putting crap on these people because they're just clueless. I may not have the greatest social skills on earth, but I'm a superstar compared to this guy. Yeah, he. What was interesting with the last episode was this other guy who'd been actually sharing with that vegan I mentioned earlier. She went off on her own and she dropped out because she just had no condition at all to survive, just had no stamina. Anyway, he was left by him lonesome, and he decided to move because he thought there must be better ground elsewhere. And he was dead right, because he had a pool he was fishing in, and it was just drying up, so he couldn't get that food source, so he knew he had to move. So he moved to this other place where this guy Seth is. And Seth was by himself, of course, which is probably the best situation because, as I say, you just rub everybody up the wrong way. He was pissed off initially with this guy, this new guy, because he had food with him and he didn't share it with this other guy, because all he'd had is some tiny snake. That's the only protein he'd had over the whole period. So he was pretty starving, and he didn't hunt one damn thing. But this other guy turns up and he sets up his own camp. He's not going to have a bar with this guy. It's someone to actually share with him. He sets up his own camp really quickly, and he goes and does some fishing using frogs as bait, and he gets a couple of big catches straight away. And the other thing, he made an observation about this Seth guy. He said his hide was absolute crap. He said all the animals could see him from miles around, and he was fooling no one. None of these animals were going to come anywhere near him in range of his bow and arrow. So yes, this guy knew what he was talking about, and Seth was just totally full of it. What was best is that right at the end, when Seth finally tapped out because he just had he went on a long walk after trying to track down some game that he'd shot, but it was stinking hot, really hot, almost 120 degrees, so just horrendously hot. And he just ran it. He needed hydration, so he gave up the chase, even though it looked as though the animal he shot was bleeding quite profusely. But he went back to home base and he tapped out. He did actually do one good thing. The only good thing he's done, he actually allowed the other player to use his bow, which he refused to do before. So these guys just didn't cooperate with one another at all. When he tapped out, he was in the back of a pickup truck, and he was just giving everybody the finger, all the people he'd competed with. He must have done it about 6 times. That's how bitter and twisted this guy was. So no great loss. It's not so much the environment you watch the show for, it's how people react to such a harsh environment. That's really the interesting thing about these shows. It's how the characters develop, and who's got the best character, who's the best one to survive in such a harsh environment. That's what's interesting. So I think it's quite good, and it may be contrived to a certain extent, and we know that there's lots of camera people all around them, and if they've got any real problems medically, there'll be someone on hand to come straight in. So it's not like real hardcore, throw them out in the middle of nowhere with no support. It's not like that. It's for entertainment. Please consider subscribing to my channel if you think there's anything there of use to you, or entertainment, or whatever. And either do that, or give me a thumbs up, or if you're feeling really energetic, do both. That'd be great. But please don't ignore me. That's the worst thing you can do on YouTube, is be ignored.